So this is a regular meeting of the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. Today is Wednesday, February 9th. We have a quorum. I am calling the meeting to order at 12:34. This meeting is being held virtually only on the town's GoToMeeting platform as indicated on the agenda posted with the town clerk and on the town's website. The first thing I just wanted to mention is I just wanted to make a quick introduction. Katie Lublin is, you may see a new face here. Some of you may remember Katie as the Oxbridge parent who helped promote our food scrap program in Oxbridge School last year. I think we ended up selling like 30 kits, right, Katie, through your efforts. So thank you for that. And I happened to mention to her that we could use some help publicizing and promoting some of our initiatives in the schools. And she thinks that she may be able to help us in that regard. So I want to thank you for joining us today, Katie.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. And Christine is here. Great. So the first item on the agenda is to approve past minutes, which were attached to the email that I sent out. So the first set of minutes would be from our regular meeting on January 12th. And does anyone have any comments? Okay. Christine, you know that I can't not comment on the minutes. I just have one thing, and I can send you a little rewording of it, but it's under the where it says Connecticut Deep Sustainable Materials Management Grant Process.
Okay.
It should just be that a grant would enable us to pilot a program for food scrap pickup, the party that we hadn't heard from to date was Deep, and that I would reach out to them. So it wasn't the haulers, it was Deep. So I can just send that rewording to you. Does anyone else have anything?
Well, I'll have it on this report, so I'll definitely make that change.
Okay, great. Hi, Pam. Good to see you. And Craig is on also. So,
hello.
Great. So everyone's in. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from January 12th as amended?
I do, Kathy.
Kathy, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? You can just raise your hand. Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain just because I didn't hear the discussion. I'm sure.
And I am too.
Okay. So Craig and Pam are abstaining. The next set of minutes to approve are from the special meeting on January 26th. Any comments, questions? Great. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the special meeting on January 26th as submitted by Christine?
So moved.
Okay, Cliff, and a second?
Kathy.
Kathy? Great. So all those in favor? Excuse me, abstentions?
Oh, I'm abstaining.
I'm going to abstain again.
Wasn't present.
Craig and Pam? Okay, great. All those in favor? Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Christine, for doing that. The next item on our agenda is communications with other organizations. Before I give a few updates, does anyone else have any updates that they would like to report on?
Carolyn, and this I can ask you if this is now the time or some other place later in the meeting. Some new information from the Connecticut Live Green program, and that relates to the education on EV vehicles, EV school buses. And so I got some new information from them and just want to pass it on and see if there's anyone, if we want to follow up with it.
I think this would be the appropriate time because that's another, similar type of organization. So do you want to report on that?
I was unable to attend the meeting yesterday, but there was through Sustainable Fairfield County a Live Green discussion, and their school bus providers like First Student, DATCO, we'll be providing 43 electric school buses to districts throughout Connecticut, and wanting everyone to be informed of that opportunity. And we knew we had a school bus contract that would be up in a couple of years, so we haven't really pursued it, but I'm wondering if there is someone for whom the information that was discussed yesterday would be appropriate to get to the people that are looking at our bus system and what opportunities there might be to partner with. I believe it's First Student for us. I'm not sure who that would be to network with. And that would be working with Daphne Dixon to get the proper information to the people in our district about what is happening and what these bus companies are going to do to begin to allow people to test electronic buses in the future.
There is a district transportation coordinator that is a position with the Board of Education, and the employee is Kate Barbieri. Maybe I'll send instead of announcing the contact information, I'll send it to you.
Sure. Okay. So I'm planning to get the feedback from the meeting that I did not attend yesterday and determine if that should be shared internally, because I think we have about 2 years to a contract. So I believe those conversations would be appropriate this year. They really weren't a year ago.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kathy. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yeah, I just didn't know if that was an appropriate time to say that through that work with that outside organization, I think there's something we should at least advise our town about right now.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Carolyn, while we're on the topic of EVs, I was just on a meeting with the Darien Men's Association. Dan, I don't think you're a member of that, but you might want to think of joining.
I'm a member, but I normally don't go on. This is the only one I go on.
Okay. Well, today we were addressed by the State Commissioner of PURA, the regulator for our utilities. And among other things, she described some legislation that was passed last year that will be providing incentives for EVs. And I don't have enough information about it, but I just want to signal that there's something out there that we should make ourselves aware of.
Yeah, I do remember, it wasn't legislation that I really followed, but I do remember hearing something about it. I'll see what I can find out and I'll forward it to you. That may be something that we want to look into. Anyone else? So one of the more exciting things that I have to report on is that last month before this meeting, I was asked to talk to the Beautification Commission about some of our initiatives, particularly the food scrap program. And they were very excited about that. And I just this morning got an email back from the chairman of the commission, and based on that talk, there's a lot of interest, and they would actually like to help promote our programs. So they are wanting to do some posters and some other promotional flyers. So I just wanted to mention that. And also, this comes a little bit later in the agenda, but they also would be interested, Ed, if we do end up having a compost give back day, to chip in to purchase the compost. So I thought you might be interested in that. And then, like the last time we did the compost giveaway, we had the whole thing with the compost is that there's such a large fixed cost transporting it here that it really doesn't make sense to get like a half of a load of compost. It's it's like almost $300 to transfer it here. So we usually want to get a full load, and we had 20 cubic yards that took us 2 Saturdays for people to take it away. But if the Beautification Commission helps chip in for the compost, I was thinking that whatever is left over after, if we only want to do it on 1 Saturday, they could use some of the compost as well, since they help pay for it. So Also, there was a green team meeting this week on Monday, and I just mentioned that we're working on this application. We are in the process of applying for recertification, and that we might be tapping some of them for some of the activities that they're doing, and with possible collaborations to get some points on our application. I also just mentioned again, and I think this is something that maybe we haven't really hit on that often, but I also mentioned the community match fund that's available from Sustainable CT, because it's not just for the town to take advantage of it. It can really be any like church, not-for-profit, any community group, and it can even be individuals who can take advantage of this community match fund. So I just brought that up again. And so that was basically what I reported on there. The Darien Nature Center is, I think I had mentioned before that Wilton Go Green had this Do One Thing campaign last year, and we asked them if we could borrow the concept, and they were very willing to allow us to do that. And as a matter of fact, their graphic designer created a template that we could customize for us. It's going to be spearheaded by the Darien Nature Center is spearheading this, and what that is, Do One Thing is kind of an important concept, I think, because so often people just don't know. There's so many. Sometimes people just feel paralyzed by like what to do, and the Do One Thing campaign, it's like, you know, it's easy to do one thing. And on the Darien Nature Center website, if you go to it, there's a whole list of easy, simple things that, you know, anyone can do in different areas of your home or your life. And I think it's important because it's doing one thing, if you do it consistently, really can make a difference. But even more importantly, oftentimes when you do one thing, it doesn't end up just being one thing. Once your level of consciousness is raised a little bit, you end up doing a lot more than one thing. So I'm really excited that they're doing that, and I'm hoping that maybe some of you will sign up to be featured by them, because it'll be basically your picture. You'll submit a photo, and what your one thing is, and they'll attach that to their newsletters, and it'll be on their website. The other day was also the CCSMM full coalition meeting, and they have these coalition meetings quarterly, basically, and it's just basically to give updates on measures that are happening around the state to reduce waste. And so there was a report the other day about the town of Meriden that has a co-collection with food scraps with their regular waste. There are a couple of communities, Fairfield among them, that are piloting glass collection programs to try to pull the glass out of the single stream. And then they also talked about the Sustainable Materials Management Grant that I'll talk about a little bit later. And then the last thing under this area is Greenwich, the town of Greenwich. A group in Greenwich is sending out this, and we had talked about this issue last year, but the gas-powered leaf blowers. And Cliff, I know you did a lot of research on that. There are a couple groups in Greenwich that are working together to gather information from their residents about their use of use on their properties of gas-powered leaf blowers, and sort of to kind of assess their tolerance for like any kind of I don't want to use the word restrictions, but like, whether that basically is what it is, what their tolerance would be for some kind of restrictions on that. So I didn't attach the survey. The survey is 18 questions, and I think it's good because each one of the questions kind of has a little educational component to it. But then, like I said, it also assesses residents' tolerance for various levels of restrictions. So I did mention this at the Green Team meeting the other day, and there was actually a lot of interest in doing this in Darien. The Pollinator Pathway, the Nature Center, the Land Trust, the Environmental Group, BYO Darien, right off the bat, we're all interested. And so I was wondering if this was something that we also wanted to lend our name to the survey and to distribute, you know, to publicize it on our platforms as well. So anyone? Cliff?
Yeah, I'm trying to digest this. I mean, I'm happy to take the survey for sure. I mean, it seems to me that biggest problem we have is that it's the lawn companies that are most active with these things.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, maybe it's not really fair to talk about it until you've all seen it. So I didn't attach it to the agenda just because there were so many other things attached to the agenda. And I also wanted to lend some context to it before I forwarded it. But why don't I forward it to everyone, and then you can, you know, you can send me your comments on it.
that would be good.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda, anything else under communications with like organizations? Okay. So then recycling, food scraps. So just to report, as I usually do, the tonnage for January was 3.61 tons, which has been consistent with what it's been for the last couple of years. And on the Sustainable Materials Management Grant process. So as you all know, we submitted an expression of interest in the end of October. We were one of the towns that were selected, invited to act. You had to be invited to apply for the grant. We were among the 35 or so towns that were invited to do that. Ed and I had a virtual meeting with some representatives from DEEP, and there were other communities that they grouped with us. That was the last that we heard from them. My understanding was that they were then going to be contacting us to work out a schedule of providing technical assistance to actually put our grant application together. Neither Ed nor I have heard anything further from them. But when I attended the CCSMM meeting the other day, there was a discussion about the grant, and the discussion sounded as though people were already in the process of putting the application together. So I went to their website and I saw that the application is now on their website, but we didn't know that it was there to date. So Ed and I will be talking about this next Wednesday if anyone wants to join us. And the application is due March 31st, and it's sort of a first come, first serve kind of thing. So there's that. And then we talked about the compost giveaway a little bit. Ed, I had mentioned that beautification offered to help fund the purchase of the compost. And I found out that, or I heard that May 29th is quote unquote National Learn About Compost Day. So I thought that might be a good sort of around that time to have the compost giveaway. But that also happens to be the Saturday before. That's a Sunday, the Saturday before it's Memorial Day weekend. So I don't know how we feel about having the giveaway Memorial Day weekend when people might be away. The following Saturday also happens to be Household Hazardous Waste Day. And then the Saturday before is I think it's around the 21st of May. So any thoughts about that? The timing of the compost giveaway?
Is there anything wrong with having it run through 2 weekends? Was it an inconvenience for you, Ed, to have the pile there for a week? You're muted, Ed.
Yeah, so sorry. We put it in a location where it really wasn't in anyone's way for that short period of time. So, if it goes on to 2 weeks, it's really not going to make that big a difference with the operations for the transfer station. And we only got 20 yards last time. I don't know if we're looking at the same amount or we're going to double it. Just got to get a feel for that.
20 yards is one full, one of those big dump truck loads.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we did the same amount.
Well,
the
last time,
other multiple compounds that I do get, I get it in 40-yard trucks also.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, just letting me know what we're gonna get and how much we're gonna get. We'll make room for it. We did last time. I don't see a problem with it.
So why don't I go with your schedule, Carolyn? If a lot of people don't show up Memorial Day weekend, then they can show up the next weekend.
Okay.
Is that too
So,
late for like spring gardening?
I mean, some
That
people
was my thought. It's just a little
Yeah.
late.
Some people commented last time we had it, I think it was like around June 10th in 2019. And some people commented that they had already gotten their gardening going and it was like too late. And they
What
took
about-
some because they wanted it, but you know,
What
they
about like Earth Day-ish? You know,
Yeah, Earth Day is great. I believe there's school vacation somewhere in 2 of those weekends that kind of bookend that we can sort of talk about it more. But so everyone's thinking that maybe earlier is better.
Spring recess for the school in town is the 11th through the 15th. So if we bumped it to Earth Day, which is the next Friday, like the 23rd, would be a great day.
Earth Day would be
I
great.
think it's a great idea.
With
Earth Day would be great.
that would be the earliest, I think, because then you're getting before that you still could have weirdish weather. So by late April, early May, it would seem
So
like it would
targeting a delivery like 22nd of April, and then it could run for the weekend of the 23rd and the weekend of the 30th.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
and then you're not running in with Mother's Day, which is going to come, and then Memorial Day after that. So it seems
Okay.
like that's a better
A
window.
lot of other communities do it around Earth Day as well. So I think that's totally appropriate. So, okay, great. So we will focus more on Earth Day rather than National Learn About Compost Day. The next item on the agenda is the trifold that we talked about last time and that Craig worked so hard on. And I just want to give a shout out to Craig because I know it doesn't look like this takes a lot of work, but it really, really does. And he spent a lot of time on this, and I just want to make sure that that we thank him for that. So the good thing, I didn't print out just because, you know, trying to be more sustainable. I'm holding up the older copy of the trifold, which was mailed to me with my permit last year. But what we did is we basically, Craig inserted a oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so there's a QR code. Craig, do you want to just talk about it?
Yeah, sure. And by the way, I also want to thank Cliff. His first email to me, I was very defensive about the nature of changes, but then I ended up making most of them, so they were thoughtfully provided. It's a trifold, so you're not really looking at it in order. The Town of Darien seal ends up folding on the front, so that's the first thing you see on the right side of this page. And when you open that bit, the second thing you see is the right side of this page, because that's how it would get folded over. We added actually 2 QR codes. This one links to the Recycle CT website, which is where you can pose a question right in a query box. Just, you know, how do I recycle pencils? And the answer is you don't. And so that's like a convenient way, and it's now our first step into just accepting the Recycle CT list instead of having our own tailored list. And then the second QR code, I added links to our recycling center website on DarienCT.gov, and it brings up a map of the recycling center, which I think is kind of the easiest, like, where do I put everything thing that we have. And I kind of moved things around and changed some verbiage along with that.
So
I think it looks amazing. Thank you for doing all that.
You're welcome.
Should I put this up on the website too? I assume.
Definitely.
Yeah, if we're all
Yeah.
happy with it and there's no more edits.
I mean,
please
once it
do.
gets approved, I assume that's.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to vote on it in just a second. What I wanted to say is that that trifold contains all of the information that was really on this other, that was also, so in other words, we used to send out the trifold, the single stream recycling list, and then this what to do if you lose your permit or you need a replacement permit. So this now contains everything, or a link to everything, QR code to everything. This I will also update, but as I understand, we're not going to mail this out. We'll just put it on the town website. So if people want to refer to it, they can, or if they want to print it out. That way people will be getting the new trifold and this piece of paper that tells them what to do if they need a replacement sticker, which we discussed last month, that it's important to keep that. So do I have because Cindy needs to get these to the printer because of the supply chain issues, so a little bit earlier than usual. Do I have a motion to approve the trifold as updated by Craig and as seen by all of you?
Carolyn, before we vote, may I just ask Ed a question about his expectation for the new contract? Will they pay us more for cardboard than for single stream? I'm still a little hung up on this because in my experience, people are reasonably good at flattening cardboard when they put it in the cardboard container. They almost never flatten it when they put it in single stream. And not only that, they leave it full of stuff, often stuff that doesn't even belong there. And it just seems that we shouldn't have cardboard in single stream.
So, Cliff, I haven't heard much from city carding with regards to separation from single stream. And other than that, with the negotiations I have going on with them right now, I really don't want to discuss more than that with you, but I understand your concerns. And I will bring it up at our next meeting with them to see if there's a benefit to the town by breaking those out and see if that helps us.
I know there's a benefit to them because I've been there and I've watched the single stream getting separated, and having big cardboard boxes come up there is not helpful for them. It requires manual interventions.
And everyone, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think you guys all know that I broke my back. I actually have to head to another radiology appointment now. So if I need to be on a vote, I really only have a few minutes in order to make it to my doctor in time.
So sorry, Pam. Yeah.
Cliff, were you finished, or?
Yeah, that's my residual concern. I do not mind if we go ahead with this as it is, but I just want to flag that as an ongoing issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is I always try to look at what's recommended by Recycle CT, and they do still consider flattened cardboard as acceptable in mixed single stream recycling. So I think at least for the time being, we should just keep it there, and whenever possible, encourage people to separate it when they bring their own recyclables to the recycling center, because there's a separate roll-off there. But for people who are doing it in their blue bin, I don't think they're going to get a separate bin for that. So
that's a good point for all the folks that aren't bringing it themselves.
Right.
It's all going in the same truck.
They're not going to hold it aside, take a separate, some of them might, but the majority of people are not going to do that. So I think that, and I've done this through, the social media. I've tried to encourage people whenever possible, when you're bringing your corrugated cardboard to the recycling center, to put it in the separate roll-off as opposed to putting it in a mixed stream with mixed recycling. And I've explained why, that it retains the value of the the recyclable by separating it, because when it goes in with single stream, it gets, oil and food and wetness and shards of paper in it, excuse me, shards of glass in it. So it's much more valuable if it's separated. So I think at least for this year, that's what we have to continue to do. And then, maybe revisit next year.
I think that's fine. I would just add, it's more valuable than any of the plastics we put in there. And if
Yes.
you give them a separated valuable cargo, it has to have value for city carting.
And we are, and that option is there,
Yeah.
and they do get the separated.
Can we,
Dale,
can
from
we,
that one.
can we proceed to a vote since Pam said she has to get off
Is that a motion?
on the trifold? I make a
Yes.
motion to
A
approve
second?
the trifold.
Okay, Christine second. So all in favor, raise your hands. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, Craig, thank you again
Thank you,
so
Craig.
much.
Great, Greg, good job.
And Pam, thank you for waiting for the vote.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I have to dash though. It takes me forever to get into my car. So I'm sorry about this, guys.
Feel better, so sorry.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the swap shop. And Dan, is there anything to report from the swap shop?
Well, the past month, we've had awful weather, so we haven't had much activity at the swap shop. Even today, when the weather wasn't too bad, from 8:30 to 11, we didn't, probably had maybe 6 or 7 cars, that's it. So the activity's been very, very sparse at this point in time. I think it'll start to pick up as the weather gets warmer.
And spring cleaning, when people start doing spring cleaning.
Absolutely. Spring cleaning, we'll have the activity increase. But right now, it's been sparse.
Okay. Right. I just want to keep on track
Kathleen
with
has a question?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to make a public comment, a compliment to you, Dan, and to Craig. I listened to the
yes.
podcast.
Yes.
And it was fantastic. And I actually think it was so human and so real and really energizing. And I hope, I don't know if there's a way to share that more broadly, who owns that and what the rights are. To hear the two of you explain the swap shop and the history and how it's used and why it's used and who benefits, it gave me information that I didn't have that made me think about a couple of things. Oh, maybe that should go to the swap shop that I wouldn't have known. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I think everyone
Craig,
that's listening should get onto the podcast and watch it.
and exactly.
Explain the swap shop and
I would like our community to know, is there a way to share that more? I know the podcast has a following, but is there another way by linking it on our social media or some other place?
We did. So what Kathy's talking about is Now We're Talking. It's a local podcast, and I believe it was in early December, Craig and Dan, that you guys were talking about the swap shop and some of our committee's initiatives. I did share it on Facebook and I did share it on Twitter, and it has gotten some likes, so I know that people have seen it. But yes, it was really wonderful because you gave the whole history of the swap shop and dispelled a lot of misconceptions about it, which I think was really important. So so I encourage, I don't have the exact date, but if if anyone Googles Darian's Talking, Now We're Talking is the name of the podcast. It was early December. I think it might have been December 9th, if I recall from the post I did. It was really good. So good job, you guys.
Thanks.
Carolyn, I have one thing on the swap shop, and I would be remiss if I don't add in our first selectman has been, as she's getting her feet wet and learning about different things, she's advocating for us to try to reopen on Saturdays still. And I keep talking to Dan about it, and I understand concerns, but eventually we're going to have to find a way to make Saturdays work. I've come up with some thoughts. We have a parking issue. Hopefully, during the week, not so much, but I know the Saturdays are difficult. So we really do need to start thinking about that more. And Dan, I know that puts a lot of pressure on you. But if it's volunteers we need, then, she said she's more than willing to put out notices to people that we're looking for help on the weekends on the swap shop.
Yeah, it's not a matter of help. It's a matter of logistics and trying to get the traffic flow moving. And the other thing, I think the selectmen should listen to the podcast first, and then let's discuss it, because I talk about the traffic and the problems that we have on Saturday. And, it's not about people. It's about how do we manage that, the traffic problems.
Understand?
It's an accident waiting to happen if we don't.
I understand this is probably a no, but is there any budget to have a traffic cop on Saturday, say if it's open 9 to noon, it's not open a whole day, and I don't know what the busiest hours are at the dump, but if we could minimize the hours and have it supervised by a grown-up that's not a volunteer. But that's my
Good idea.
We could try that with a policeman, but I've been out there and I've been called all kinds of names because of, it gets brutal. Names that I don't want to discuss right here that we've been called because of the traffic problem. So I don't know if
in general,
a policeman would do it, because it's, right now it's tough to, to move traffic. People are trying to come in, people are trying to go out, people are coming down from the top, and there's a bottleneck.
It's a small dead end parking lot, and just that people backing in and out of the small dead end parking lot becomes a safety issue. But
if we can find a way where
it immediately backs up, yeah, I'll get there.
And not back out, then we could probably solve the problem. But backing in, backing out, people coming from the top, people coming in, we've had traffic all the way out to Whole Foods.
In the past, Ed, we talked about, can you loop around the appliance bin by C&D and get back out that way?
Right.
So you create a one-way loop where you just kind of pull over, and then back out. And as one way on Saturdays to move traffic through there a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think we should get creative and really take a look at that on traffic flow. If we can fix the traffic flow, there'd be no problem.
One of the other things that we talked about the last time we talked about this issue was, perhaps not having it open for the whole period that we normally have it open, but like maybe 2 hours instead of 4.5 hours, and choosing a time frame that's not one of the busier time frames during Saturdays. To me, that kind of makes sense, because it gives people the ability to access the recycling center if Saturday is the only day that they can do it. And if they have to go at
7:30 to 9:30 would be, I would say, before most people
what we
wake up
can
and get
do
there.
is maybe this, as it starts to get busy, take a look at on a Saturday the kind of traffic that comes in and out, and see if we can do something like that. Maybe just.
When we were selling kits at the recycling center a couple of years ago, is that it actually is super busy early in the morning, and then there's a period where really it's quiet, and then it gets busy again. Like, I forget what it was, like Ed, like maybe around noon or 11 or something. But
yeah,
I
11 to 1.
11 I think it was 11 to 1 that it starts to slow down, and then it starts.
Yeah, my recollection is early in the morning it was super busy, so we may not want to pick that time of day. But
the other thing we were thinking about is just a drop off.
What's the matter?
Put the stuff someplace, where people, because that's the complaint we have, that people on a Saturday, the commuters would like to come in and drop off. So
okay, so we know that there's interest in wanting to reopen on Saturday, so we just need to figure out the best way to do it.
Exactly. There's got to be a way of doing it. We just have to figure it out.
Definitely. Okay, so we can we'll talk offline and try to come up with a good solution for this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we should get together and really brainstorm.
Okay, sounds good. And like I said, also kind of like take a view of like what the traffic patterns are on Saturday. But I think like I said, I kind of remember what they were. So is that it for the swap shop?
Yes.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is public schools outreach. And I did put something here because when I attended the Coalition for Connecticut Sustainable Materials Management meeting, that's a mouthful, the other day, the person who gave the report on the food scrap pilot in Meriden had mentioned that they had involved a lot of their high school students in promoting the program, and they talked about TikTok videos and all kinds of, I mean, we use Facebook and Twitter, and there are lots of other ways to get information out. So I sent an email to the faculty advisor of the Eco Citizens Club to see if there would be any interest in helping us promote some of our initiatives. I haven't heard back yet, but I just wanted to let you know that I had done that. And I'm thinking that that might be a good way, you know, to get some new energy and ideas on how to, because we think that we think that we reach everyone through, you know, putting things on the town website, through Facebook, through Twitter, through these meetings. But there's huge swaths of residents who don't access any of these. So it would be nice to be able to be able to, like I said, get some fresh ideas and so forth. So I will let you know what I hear back from the faculty advisor. And then also under marketing, outreach, and education, I forwarded you the last article that I did for the Darien Neighbors magazine, which the Darien Nature Center asked if they could use that same article. Because it's everything that you can recycle, basically. I got permission from Darien Neighbors for them to share that content as long as they mentioned that it had first been published in that publication. And then the next submission that I did was on our whole application process for recertification. That will be in the March issue. And again, I'm looking for volunteers who can write articles for some of the other upcoming months' issues.
Carolyn,
yeah.
excuse me. Hi.
Hi.
The conversation you and I had with the editor last year was to suggest some type of an article on sustainable events, which could use some of the information that.
And I think you had volunteered to do that, Kathy.
I did. So I mean, the information from Sailors for the Sea, which talks about boating sustainability, provides considerable information on sustainable events and event plannings. And certainly that would apply to events at our boat club and yacht club, but they would be just as, you know, as meaningful for, you know, a soccer
any large event.
A soccer tournament, or, you know, the Memorial Day food fair was a perfect one. So I'm willing to see if, you know, to pitch that to the editor and see if May, June kind of time frame. That might be an article that we could submit on, you know, and you get into reusable material, you know, food scrap recycling and no plastic water bottles and reusable water centers. And there are a bunch of, you know, pretty simple techniques that I think could do that 500-word article.
One very simple thing that Parks and Rec did for their annual tree lighting event that's held, I believe it's Thanksgiving weekend. Jamie Gore, who works for Parks and Rec, they give out hot chocolate to all the children who attend the event, the children and parents, and they had been using, I believe, styrofoam cups, but she wanted to do something better. So we found sourcing for her to get compostable cups, and then I made arrangements with our food scrap hauler. They collected the cups separately. They brought them to, I got permission from Ed for them to bring to keep the compostable cups separately. But that's just an example of one simple thing. So there were like, I can't remember how many cups it was, how many they ordered. It's maybe 500 or 600, but that's 500 or 600 fewer styrofoam cups that are just going in the trash. And you know, normally we don't, the reason they had to be collected separately is we normally are the place where our food scraps is hauled does not allow compostable serviceware, but when it's collected separately like that, and they know that that's what it is, and that it is bona fide compostable and not plastic mixed in with it, they can take it. So we did have that special arrangement, but that's just one example of one simple thing that can be done that can make things better. So an article on that would be great, and thank you for volunteering to do that.
Shall I reach out directly to the magazine folks that I submitted the last article to and say that I would volunteer that article? Copy you?
She and I normally talk like around this time of year to kind of put together an editorial calendar for the year. So why don't I talk to her first, and then once I talk to her, then I will put you in, then I will let you know when you should work out the details of which month and so forth. How does
Sure.
that sound?
Whatever.
Okay. Then at one of the Green Team meetings, Jamie Gore from Parks and Rec had mentioned that if any of the Green Team groups wanted to get any promotion for various groups or initiatives in the spring and summer catalog of Parks and Rec, to forward her something. So I did. I sent her, remember the postcard that we did last year for the food scrap program? I sent that to her. So she hopefully, you know, I mean, it's all dependent on how it gets laid out and what kind of space is available. I actually sent her two options. I sent her that, and I sent her a poster on our food scrap program that I had done for the Nature Center's Earth Day event last year. So depending on how much room there is, hopefully one of those will make it in. And then Pam left, but I put Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram on here. Pam has graciously volunteered to take on these social media platforms. The next item is Energy Task Force, and the first item there is new solar array for Town Hall. If we can add anything on the senior center side of the building. Ed, do we have any updates on that?
Not at this time, Carol.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you a question because I got an email from someone who works in that field. I don't know where this person got my name on email, but you know, wanted to talk about, you know, the town's solar energy initiatives. Should I just forward that person's name on to you? What should I do in a case when I get outreach like that?
You can forward them to me.
Perfect.
I get quite a few of them also. Some of them, when I read through them, I'll respond to them and ask, but most of the time they're not as in-depth as I'd like to be
Okay.
as far as getting information from these companies, but please forward it to me.
Okay, great. I will, then I'll respond to the email and copy you on it so that you see that that's what I did. And then EVs is another item on the list here. Do we have anything to report on any transition to any electric vehicles in the municipal fleet, or?
The town administrator and I were still talking about moving forward with that process. And we're still looking into the avenue of getting grants to do that. And I understand there's some out there that we have an opportunity to dive into. Even through that, or the possibility of using some of the ARPA funds. Didn't know if that was how that was going to go over or not.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff come through relative to the ARPA funds. Also, this Go Green that we were talking about, Live Green Connecticut. she may have information because she doesn't just do school bus. This EV transition for municipal governments is part of what they do in this local organization. Shall I find out if she has anything relative to fleets that I could forward to you at this point? Okay. And are we going to talk sustainable CT, or are we running out of time? Because
Yeah, we are running out of time. So I just wanted to mention, actually that leads into that. The environmental chairs have sort of outlined what their priorities are for this year, and a couple of those things might be of interest to us. One of them being EV incentives, and also there most definitely will be proposed legislation for EPR for cylinders, and probably also for some other packaging. So yes, so now we should, we only have a few more minutes, but we should move on to sustainable CT. So probably the most pressing item is we've been very worried about category 7. And I think that we've, based on Chad's recommendation at our special meeting a couple weeks ago, we've sort of, we haven't given up on the item that we were working on, but we are, there's another item where he felt very strongly that with a little bit of effort, we could get those points. And Craig and Kathy and I and Ed met with Amy Thompson, who's with UConn Smart Buildings, Connecticut, last week. And so do you guys want to talk about that or anything else?
Yeah, go ahead.
There was some information that they needed from us.
I can tell you that Tony is working with UConn right now. He's actually going through the list. They're looking for an updated list from us and items in the buildings that we currently have. He's also spoken with Mike Lynch at the Board of Ed, letting him bring you up to speed on what we're doing. And Mike has been fully cooperative and said he would in the future to get us any information that we may need. So we started that process right now. Tony's
awesome.
Working on it the last couple of days.
Great.
Yeah, this is very promising for those first few points, and it also would set us up very well, again, to look at the category another category we were considering about Energy Star rating buildings. But we'll know what our candidates are after this process is done.
Great. Kathy?
I have another category in a letter that I received from Sustainable CT just a few days ago from the program manager, Jessica LeClaire. And I'm not sure whether this is something we want, but given that I think the positive feedback from working with UConn, this is something that maybe somebody wants to take a look at and see if this is something we want to participate in. And pardon me, Sustainable CT is working with a program called SOL Smart, S-O-L Smart, and it's funded by the U.S. Department of Energy, and it provides no-cost technical assistance and nationally recognizes local solar achievements, and achieving the work through Soul Smart, it qualifies for 20 points under 5.6, streamlined solar permitting for small solar installations. There is an organization called Great Plains Institute that will provide no-cost services to the community on a first-come, first-served basis. They will be discussing this on February 17th between 12 and 1 on a webinar. And again, this goes a little bit out of my bailiwick with this advisory committee and the work that happens and what that necessarily means. But again, this is another benefit to Darien to have outside consulting services look at our processes and provide guidance. I don't know if this would work for us or not. But the letter came directly from Jess to me and asked if we were interested, and if so, there's a letter you have to fill out. I can forward all this, but I didn't see it until it was too close to this meeting to give you any upfront notice. So where would I send this if anybody cares?
Why don't you send it to me? It looks like it requires cooperation with zoning and building. which would be under Jeremy Ginsburg's umbrella. So if we're going to get his staff interested in the idea, yeah, he's the person that would allow that to happen.
Okay, and clearly what has happened is through the building of Sustainable CT and the partnerships that they have developed, they have obviously kind of gathered technical experts in different areas that can assist a community. So this is one that may or may not apply to us, but I will forward it to you, Craig.
5.6F, it sounds like they're talking about, which is review the permitting process. Basically, just go through a review with SoulSmart, and they could tell you what could be made better. I think that's
so it's sort of a consulting exercise, an assessment that doesn't necessarily require changing your permits at this point, but to say what you might do to make solar permitting more accessible to your community members. Okay, I'll forward it to you and we can go from there, and then I will respond. I told Jessica that we were meeting and I needed to find the right people. The other place that with Sustainable CT and outside services is the equity coach. And I'm hoping to speak to her just one-on-one before the weekends to find out what she would provide to us specifically if we gather a group of us. We did it with a coach 3 years ago, and it requires bringing members of the town government together to identify opportunities to improve access to community services to underserved members of the community. And so once I speak with her, I'll be able to report back, because the whole point of it is then to apply it to an action somewhere else in the application where you can improve access to a service. So
do you have any ideas yet where that might be?
What I did was I took the there is, I don't know if anybody has looked at, but there's something called Data Haven, which has done about a 50-60 page equity profile of every community in the state of Connecticut. You can just
I looked at it after you mentioned it at the special meeting. Yeah.
So you can go on and look at it and read it for Darien, and that is the roadmap from which you would identify any area where there is a population that is food insecure or education, income, transportation. And so that profile would serve, we would have to use, I think we'd use something in that profile identifying people in our community and then applying that to one of our actions, whether it's with human services or parks and recreation or wherever it might be in this process, to take an action we're taking and broaden its usefulness or availability in the town. So I don't know where that is based on, the 12 categories. I just know that I will speak to the equity coach, get her guidance at the moment, find out who she would recommend we meet with. And I assume it would be a couple of us with somebody either back with Ally in Human Services or possibly Parks and Rec, or someplace where we may have people that could benefit from services that are harder to get to. I'll just wait and see.
Okay.
Basically any action that any of you are working on can have an equity action applied to it. And if you have anything you're working on that makes sense to throw into that equity toolkit, I would ask for that feedback back from any of you.
We had 2 last application, right? We got credit for 2 equity actions. So, okay, good.
So on that score, one of them may have rolling capability, and that's the one about seniors' access to the farmers market. In the document you referred to, it shows that over 30% of Darien is housing challenged. That is to say that they spend more than 30% of their income on housing, and that ties in with the homelessness. Oh, sugar. My battery's running low. Ties in with the homelessness piece that we actually do a very good job with. And I'm getting great cooperation from our director of Human Services. There we go. Sorry, I was running out of power. Director of Human Services, and I mean, unless Sustainable CT is pushing us to do a lot of extra work in terms of some kind of coordination with other towns, I think we're going to do okay in that homelessness category.
Yeah, I saw your emails, Cliff. Thank you for copying me on them.
Yeah, I haven't sent them to everybody because I think, you can get overwhelmed with all the minutia of what's going on, but I thought you should know. And when I get something concrete, I'll send it to you too, Kathy.
Um,
Kathy?
I'm also inundating Carolyn with emails.
yeah,
So,
I do read them. I believe I don't always understand them all, but I do read them all.
Okay, so just to wrap, can I just wrap on that equity and something Cliff said and
Yes.
the farmer's market, and I know we've got Katie on the phone, on the call. We're spending a lot of time with the food scrap recycling program, and to make that program more available to people in the community, there may be a way, I don't know, where assisting people with using that service or having access to remove and recycle their food. And I don't know what that would be, or whether it would be
This is
through
super
senior
interesting.
housing or.
Well, yeah, think about the housing authority properties, right?
Correct.
I assume they have hauler pickup, right?
Correct.
So you might not have a large portion of that population with their own permits to go to the dump and drive there with their food scraps, but they're both properties that are professionally managed. Could you have a bin at those properties that then, can move? Well, that would be really cool. But anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, that is a great example of giving access to a town service to people that might not otherwise have access to it. So I don't know. I mean, that was one in my head.
Ideas are good. We like ideas.
So think of, as any action you work on, it could involve, educating people, writing a brochure, putting a bin at the senior housing. It could be setting something up at the senior center. I mean, I don't know what it is, but any of your actions that you're working on individually, think of the equity toolkit. And if you know anything on the top of your head, let me know, because I'm going to have at least a preliminary conversation with the equity coach, hopefully on Friday. That's it for me.
So I had a question, if I could, Carolyn.
No, I was just going to say we've exceeded our hour, but if you all are willing to stay on, that's great. Thank you. Craig?
So I started going to the Sustainable CT website and filling out an action item with completed information. I was hoping Kathy would hear this, but she's disappeared.
She'll be back.
Okay. And what I saw was that all of our old information is still there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just give you an example. These are our municipal action items that I was starting to fill out for our new application, but you go in to install efficient exterior lights, and it has our comments that we filled out in the different fields. It's got the PDF attachments with the proof.
Right.
So the old information is still there. And so that leads me to the question of, are we supposed to delete it? Or how do we work the new application now, given that the old information is still there?
So, Cliff, so there was a sustainable CT meeting a couple weeks ago about the application process, and Cliff actually attended it. I watched the video after the thing, and I think that Cliff, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they said that all the information for which we got credit last time would remain, that they wouldn't take anything off the application, that we had to be the ones to go in and change it. Am I paraphrasing them correctly?
I think that's right.
Okay.
So
as we get towards the submission date, we actually have to cleanse this thing for anything that we're not asking for new or rolling credit. We have to delete.
Well, if we're
basically.
asking for rolling credit, it can remain, and it may just
Yeah,
need,
I said
like,
if we're not asking for new or rolling credit,
we have to
we will
delete
have
it.
to delete it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The application, the 2019 application is saved somewhere, you
It's
know,
still there.
else
Like
in the-
so I started this when you went off screen for a second, Kathy.
Yeah.
I'm actually filling out some action items that I am working on, you know, new and populating new information,
Yes,
but I'm seeing all the old information in the
correct,
same spot. Yeah. So we have
correct. And we need to change, we need to correct it, and it doesn't take away from the application that existed in 2019. That's
Right.
that's
Like
locked
yeah.
somewhere else,
I understand.
and we just start fresh and reuse it or delete it as needed.
Okay. Do you guys feel that we should have another special meeting to talk about sustainable CT, or do you want to have like
In
subgroup?
general, yes, I think we should have an hour dedicated to it once a month, and then an hour
Okay.
dedicated to other stuff once a month.
Okay, so do you want to, let's see, today's the 8th, the 15th. So if we did it like kind of in between would be the 23rd of February. Does
I'm
that,
available the 23rd.
you're available the 23rd? And do we want to do the same time, 12:30? Does that work for everyone?
I'm not here, but please go ahead.
Oh, that's like winter break?
It
Yeah,
is
that's
winter break.
Okay. But you're here, Craig? Kinda. I mean, would it be better to do it another week? Would you prefer? Because it doesn't matter
Everybody-
to
You're
me.
muted, Craig. You're muted.
Yeah, you and Kathy are muted.
So it's either the 23rd or March 2nd.
Okay.
Or
Or
it
we
could
do
be
March
next,
9th.
it could be next week too, if you want, the 16th. So what do
Actually,
you guys,
16th would probably be the best out of those 3 dates.
okay, is that good for everyone?
16th is good for me.
Okay.
I'm a maybe,
So-
but it's okay.
What, Christine?
I'm a maybe, but it's okay. Next week is like super slammed, so.
Okay.
But please go ahead, and maybe I can do the minutes after. I can just watch it.
Okay, so we'll meet next Wednesday, the 16th at 12:30. I'll send out a notice and get the room. It's not a room, I'll make all the necessary arrangements. So before we, is there anything else that anyone would like to say before we leave?
Yes, I couldn't be more happy to be in a sustainability meeting being chaired by Carolyn. I'm thrilled.
I second that emotion, and I also would add that it's nice to attend a meeting and not have to take the minutes. Thank you so much, Christine.
Don't get me started.
I was
Meeting.
so much that I wish Craig was chairing this.
You're doing great, Carolyn. We love you.
I haven't met our new face yet.
Yeah.
I missed the first few minutes.
So Craig, yeah,
hello.
you came in a couple of minutes late, and Christine. So Katie Lublin, as I mentioned, she is someone that you will have remembered that I mentioned last year, because she was the Oxbridge parent, one of the Oxbridge parents who helped publicize our food scrap program in Oxbridge. Especially, it started with the 5th grade, but then it kind of expanded to the entire school. We ended up selling some 30+ kits as a result of her efforts. And I had mentioned to her that like the schools is like one of the areas where we really need, we're kind of lacking in access to, like, how do you get something, you know, in the newsletters, and how do you, like, what people do you coordinate with in the schools? And she thought that she might be able to help us in that regard. So she is kind of visiting us today, and we're happy to have her here. So hopefully we didn't scare her away.
Not at all. It's always nice to be around like-minded people, and I very much appreciate the work you're doing. So thank you for inviting me.
Sure. Well, we hope you come back. So unless there's anything else, do I have a motion to adjourn? Cliff, you're muted.
So moved.
Oh, okay. So moved. Second? Okay, Christine. So we're now adjourned and I'm going to end the recording. Stop recording.